Welcome to Inside the Juno Reactor. This week it's a pleasure to have Steve Stevens here. Juno fans will know him more from our collaboration track Pistolero. He's a Grammy Award-winning guitarist, Billy Idol's right-hand man, countless other supergroups, and not forgetting Micheal Jackson and Quincy Jones. Some people are born with a silver spoon. Steve was born with a Les Paul dialed into the heavens. I hope you enjoy these conversations inside the Juno Reactor. Hi, Steve. It's great to see you in this space.
Absolutely.
What are you doing these days?
With Billy Idol, we did an EP which was released about 5 months ago. And then we are getting ready to release another EP. So we've been doing these chunks of recording, like 4 songs at a time, working with different people each time. And so we finished that up, and we head out on the road with supporting Journey for
Nice.
for about a month of dates. So I start rehearsals for that in about 10 days. Yeah.
I was listening to Rebel Yell earlier this evening just to get myself back into it, because that's my starting point for you.
Yeah.
In particular, you know?
Yeah.
And that Rebel Yell still sounds amazing.
Yeah, it holds
up. On the
up.
speakers, huh?
Yeah, some of that stuff really does hold up. I mean, the attention to detail that we took back then was, we had a disco producer, so he was used to everything, being groovy, and so I think that's why that holds up maybe better than some of the other rock stuff from the 80s.
Well, the guitars sound amazing, and the only thing I think time-wise, the keyboard sounds are a bit sort of like of the time.
They're of the time, absolutely, yeah.
But what was it like working with him?
With the producer, Keith?
Yeah, Keith,
yeah. He was great. Obviously, Billy coming from, the sort of punk thing in 77 brought that energy to it. I brought the kind of guitar histrionics thing, all my guitar stuff. And then Keith being from the Giorgio Moroder side of things, I think we all kind of went to our strengths, and it kind of made it very unique. And I think our by the time we did that record, it was we all knew what our roles were pretty defined just naturally. So when it came time for some heavy bits or arrangement bits, they kind of went to me.
The guitar sounds so spiky and fresh, and
the guy who engineered it was Dave Whitman, who had done everything from Led Zeppelin to Mahavishnu Orchestra to Kiss, and he was a real guitar guy. So anything that, if I brought in a CD or something, or said, I'm looking to go down this road, he could, because I wasn't, at that time, I really didn't have any technical experience. I didn't know anything about microphones or any of that stuff. Yeah. So he could kind of interpret what I was hearing. So he was a really good partner in crime for guitars, certainly.
Yeah, great sort of background sort of guys to have around. I remember we used to do stuff where we just hadn't got a clue, but luckily the engineer did.
Yeah, and it was done at Electric Lady Studio, so they had great rooms to begin with, and every bit of gear you could think of, all good. I think that the album was tracked on a Neve and maybe mixed on SSL. But I remember we'd have the playback at the end of the week, and we felt we were onto something. When it's good, it. It's no mystery.
Really
It's only up to the record company to screw it up at that point. Fortunately, they didn't. But we felt really good about what we were doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were going around Europe listening to that on tour when I had the Flower Pot Men.
Yeah,
through that. So when I then realised you were working with Tracy,
right? Mm-hmm.
That's when we sort of came together, huh?
Yeah, I mean, what you did on that record, I loved, even before knowing that of your involvement. I remember when those Control video came on MTV or something. I went, wow, wow, this is really good. This is storming, Then, lo and behold, found out what, I think it was through Brendan Burke. He told me about you. And then he sent me, I think, a copy of, I don't remember which Juno Reactor record, but it was God is God.
Okay. Bible of Dreams.
Yeah. And I flipped out over that. I was like, this is so beyond the other kind of electronic stuff that was around. It's because you were combining all of the organic stuff. It was like, what's that Japanese movie where the character becomes robotic, but he's human?
Tetsuo.
That's it. You reminded, like, your approach was robot, but human, and the lines were crossed. And it was the first time I ever heard anything like that.
I still love that whole combination of guitars and electronics, and I think the more people are sort of, I don't know, I just think they do it sort of differently than I want to hear it nowadays. And usually just go for the power chords. But we've done quite a few. We've done a few tracks now because there's been one that's never been released that I still really like. And we did Hotaka as well.
Right, yeah.
That turned out really well. And then there was another one that I think we did. I'm not even sure if I've got it here. I might have it. I really like that actually. Still,
yeah.
There's this bit in the middle. You use this really beautiful effects processor.
Don't remember what, but sounds good.
it was in your rack over there.
Right.
And it's and it's got this really beautiful sort of like compression on it.
Right.
That when you're doing these guitar chords, it sort of sucks it in and sends it into the reverb and
Yeah.
You don't know what it is?
Not sure exactly. I'm not sure.
That was about 2011.
Yeah, it's probably the reverbs usually are probably like Eventide. I usually go with that, and really the best, even things like Flesh for Fantasy and stuff. The old Boss compressor pedals are the best because they're not subtle, so they really bloom and sustain those chords. And when it's when it's followed by reverb and a little bit of a volume pedal, almost takes on like a pedal steel kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Almost,
that's what it reminds me of.
In my head, I'm hearing Ry Cooder,
Yeah, definitely.
It's, those kind of pedal steel things. So.
Yeah, I love that. It's so sort of, because then it allows my end to sort of be able to breathe. I've been trying to recreate that for ages.
Like usually the more low budget compressor, the better, because they're not subtle. And then you follow it. So you use the compressor pedal and then a volume pedal after it. So you've got all this sustain, but it's controllable. And then send that into some sort of usually Eventide stuff or Lexicon reverbs, any of those long, keep the decay as long as possible.
Well,
and that's usually where I start with. And then, nice chord voicings. I'm usually not thinking guitar-wise. I'm thinking pads or something, a lot of minor seven, things like that. So I'm sure I really haven't changed my approach to that at all. So I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. Really nice. And the other thing I really like about that track is you're playing in like a 7/8. You're doing like this like lead section that's sort of like all in a 7/8 against it. And I remember thinking, wow, because I'd just been working with Don Davis, and Don was like really into this thing of sevens against fours.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because somewhere they meet up. There is a bar down the road where they meet up.
I'm pretty useless with rhythm, although I'm meant to be a sort of very rhythmic sort of person when it comes to electronic music. But generally, I just get in great people who are great percussionists, which I think is the best way. It's like if you want a great guitarist, you get in yourself or other people, and it's the player that brings everything to, which is what I love about collaboration. And
absolutely. I mean, I learned so. I mean, I think at the time that I came over to London to work with you was just that there was a lot of things like Chemical Brothers happening, Propeller Heads, things like that, which ordinarily as an American guitar player you're not exposed to that stuff. So it was like hearing all of this was really inspiring. It was, and the way that you worked was to me so unique and so different. But I found it was certainly different than the people I was used to, rock people I was used to working with. But it was even ideas that I had sounded fresh because they were in a different context. If I'm in a room with a bass player and a drummer and I do that, all right, I've been doing that for 20 freaking years. But it was nice to, it's nice to throw it. Yeah.
The hours were quite long, I remember, because you came over for like 6 days or something.
Right.
And the first day I remember thinking that was a bit of a disaster because neither of us really got into what we were doing. And the second day it really kicked off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But usually by the end of the night, you were like really crashed out.
Yeah. I'm not good with jet lag. I just never, I've never, I've done all those things they say, stay up the next day and whatever. It's never really worked. I just have to wait it out until I'm, acclimated. But,
I think also when you're working with an electronic producer, it's a bit boring for like the player because, you do your playing, I grab it and then I start fucking around with it and you're left with, might as well.
You work pretty quickly though. It's what I found fascinating was the way, especially when we did Pistolero, the way that you were able to manipulate the guitars and get them to lock in rhythmatically in a way that the guitar, like the flamenco guitar, really became so percussive, and tight,
tight, super tight.
Which I strive to, I try as a human to do that, but it's never going to be like the way that you can kind of move it. And
I think that's really the weird thing. That's the weird thing also that with electronic music, if it's not tight to the groove, it's you're tight to the groove anyway, but unless it's electronically tight to the groove, it's not going to hit.
Yeah.
And I found that with the orchestra as well, like when I was doing Matrix stuff again, unless you really tighten up the orchestra to a gnat's fart, it doesn't really happen with the electronic.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of people who more than likely would love to hear you do a Pistolero thing and maybe tell them a little bit about it if you can remember it.
Oh, wow.
Well, your flamenco style, your rock, it's like a rock flamenco styler. And you always do this amazing solo. Like when we played in Japan, you did that really amazing solo.
Yeah.
After it.
Yeah.
Have you got a few guitar? Would you give us a few bars?
Yeah, let me get a guitar. Hold on one second. All right, yeah. Can you hear that?
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Okay.
Sounds really good.
I think, if I remember correctly...
Can we see your fingers go?
Yeah.
Well, I think your line is a major.
Is it?
da 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 da. Yeah, that's like a minor. Nelly.
Something.
It's
How
a
many
long
years
time
is it?
ago.
Yeah, how many years has it been?
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Something. But I remember when you were able to like sort of line up those guitar things, the little, because I was thinking, I don't know if I can get it tight enough. You know. But yeah,
Yeah,
somehow
it's beautiful.
we did make it work.
But when you do that really, I noticed you do it a lot on the Billy shows as well, where you take the flamenco sort of like solo as well, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, there's well, that one was. There's all that kind of stuff, yeah. Those are really just I started out doing that sort of stuff as exercises because, I started on nylon guitar. So I was like, well, how do I adapt that? Because originally I'm doing the finger style, proper classical, but I could never get the speed together there. So I thought, well, let me combine the picking thing with the with the nylon guitar, whereas a lot of the, some of those flamenco players, Eduardo's, they get that incredible speed, but they grew up with that technique,
And there's, I think also that it's like with Eduardo, he's a lot softer. What gives the percussion is that pick.
Yeah, exactly. That came from, a lot of, guitar players, jazz guitar players were always, doing, who even guys like George Benson and stuff were like incredible alternate pickers. So
what about people like Django Reinhardt and those sort of guys?
Yeah, well, he was just an anomaly. He's beyond. To play the way that he played with two paralyzed fingers is. Even now, when I watch footage of him, I can't figure it out.
Really?
It's so beyond what I could. Yeah. It's obviously he is like Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. He took this hindrance and made it a strength because he went, oh, I'll just play these big riffs with these two fingers.
Yeah.
And he created a whole style, obviously, metal or whatever, with that. Same with Django. There's no other gypsy guitar players who were playing like that before him.
You've got this new band as well, haven't you? The Deadland Ritual.
When the four of us were in a room creating, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I like the guy's voice.
And
Who's it? Frankie Perez.
Yeah, Frankie. And And the rhythm section was great. Geezer Butler and Matt Sorum. I mean, Geezer's. At the first initial plan was to have another guitar player, to have a 2-guitar band. But when we got in to rehearse, the sound that's created by Geezer Butler's, I was like, there's no room for another guitar. It's, it's...
What was he like to work with? Because it's pretty amazing.
It's great. It's great. And, there's not too many bass players that you get in a room and they have this sound that is the same exact approach and sound that I grew up listening to those records. And I was just like, wow, I get to play against that. It's like a mountain, it's like incredible.
And do you ever sort of feel like being more independent and sort of setting it up and working it yourself? Or do you think that's...
Well, that's the beauty of what I do with Billy Idol, because he finances the records, he pays the producers, everything is self-financed. I mean, he's in a position to do that. And then you just go and find a distributor, to get the record out. So fortunately, we have control over exactly what we want to do. And there's no one to tell us, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Or, it's a nice luxury to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. I think especially for established acts, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I wonder what it's like to be like a young band now that are sort of really trying to kick it off. And
it's really hard. It's really hard. And they survive. A lot of bands survive on merch, their T-shirt sales to keep them on the road and, pay to move the gear and all that. And then these record companies want a big percentage of their T-shirt sales. Well,
massive,
because there's no tour support anymore. In the 80s, it was like, yeah, sure, we'll give you $500,000 of tour support. Oh, great, But now it's unfair. I feel it's really unfair to these bands to dip your hands in those areas, because that's how they can survive, I don't know if I moved to Las Vegas, so when I moved, I got a nice little API desk.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
which one is that? Which one's that?
It's called the Box.
Okay.
So, and you can load in, 800 series modules into it. And I just love it. I just love having things on there. And
is it easy to see? Is it easy to move your camera? And
yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take up much space. But as a guitar player, it just, everything gels, it marries things together in a way that when I'm working if I'm working in a session with someone just in the box, I don't find my guitars fit as well. They don't get glued in as well.
And has that got like a 2500 compressor in it as well? It
does, yeah, it does. And you can allocate that to the master bus or to input channels. So it's basically 16 channel playback and then 8 channel with mic pre's in it.
Yeah, I saw it. I thought I was quite tempted by that. I was thinking,
it's really nice.
If I sell this AMEC desk, that would be the one I'd go for.
It's really nice, nice. I'm really happy with it. Yeah.
But I sold my API 2500 for to get this keyboard here. This Quantum.
What is that?
It's a Quantum Waldorf.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a seriously nice machine.
Yeah.
It's like got so much sort of sound design in it as well. And it's so deep. I think it's like the best synth for, 20 years or something. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I mean, hardware synths are, I don't know. I mean, I guess because we grew up with them, they're just, that tactile thing of having it in front of you, I think there's something to be said for it.
Totally. Yeah, no, I love it. I really love it. And also lately I've been getting into this thing, the old viola.
Wow. When I went to the high school performing arts, which was the Fame School.
Wicked.
Right? So here's the thing. I auditioned on guitar and they accepted me.
Yeah.
But then once classes started, the guitar's not a member of the orchestra, and they said you have to pick up and start another instrument. So I said, well, viola is, I guess,
Really?
close enough. I was terrible. Oh my God, I'm lost without frets. My ear is just not. It's just not that accurate.
But what was that like then? That whole sort of the Fame School, were you dancing and doing all of it?
Well, this is like 1975, 76, and it was just when CBGB's was getting going and the Mercer Art Center, all those bands were starting to happen, Talking Heads and Television, and I was in Manhattan every day, and I'd kind of one day one of the cool kids kind of brought me to the Mercer Art Center, and we saw the Heartbreakers with Johnny Thunders, and I dropped out of school.
So you weren't dancing around the lampposts? But
No,
CBGB's must have been brilliant. I missed that. I think when I got into New York was seriously. I mean, I came into New York with a really shit band in about 80.
Right.
And then I hit it in 85 when like the Palladium opened.
Right.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved New York then.
Yeah, at that time it was, there was two periods I thought were really great. Was like the, that the beginning of CB's, because all those bands, there was no place for them to play. And I think it was Richard Hell was the first person to kind of approach Hilly, the owner of CBGB's, because it was a country and western bar. And he said, there's all these bands. We all live in that area. They were all living on the, Alphabet City because that's the only place you could afford. He said, me and my friends, we all have bands, and, could you give us a night? And that's how it started, and Blondie and
Alphabet Land was like ABC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did it go further down as well? ABC.
It did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Bowery, and then ABCD, and I mean, it was really dodgy then, but that sometimes.
I remember about 1980, I went and stayed with this artist, and I stayed between B and C in his little apartment. And I woke up with like just cockroaches everywhere all over me.
It's the New York experience. It's that or rats.
And it reminded me of like that film Marathon Man, where you've still got the street gangs like hanging out on the sort of the stairwells and all of this sort of stuff. Where were you living at this time?
So I was living in Rockaway, where I grew up during high school years, and that was and from my stop was the very last stop on the A train, so it's an hour and a half to get to the city. And there was a lot of gang stuff, but mostly it originated from Coney Island, like that film Warriors was.
I love that film.
Right,
I love that film.
That's all supposed to take place in Coney Island, where those gangs were. I never really got messed with, I guess I just didn't look like I had anything to, they weren't going to rob me. I didn't have anything. So.
Was there that amount of gangs? Was that sort of heavily colorized by Hollywood? And
it was pretty gnarly. It was pretty dangerous, but, I never had a problem. I don't know. I just had a sixth sense of where to go.
Where's Nosfran on the A train? Is it Nostran?
Nostran Avenue. Yeah, that's in Brooklyn. Yeah, that's like a major. There's all these little major stops where a lot of the branches you can transfer to another train.
Because I remember, like in '85, I was working down in Run DMC's studio, which was at Nosfran.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think I was about the only white guy getting off the train.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So the police suddenly is like, all the white people left, and I was sitting there going, oh, okay. The police would come nearer and nearer to me and actually sort of walk me through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which was quite weird. Also
in the 70s, we had, I don't know if you know, with the Guardian Angels, where they were kind of like the, not really vigilantes, but they'd kind of, watch over you. And I think anytime if I was taking the train really late or whatever, I'd usually just, look and see if there was any guardian angel guys,
But how far away were you from like Nostran?
Probably about an hour
Wow.
train ride from there. Yeah. Right before I joined up with Billy Idol, I was in a band and we lived in a music building on 30th Street and 8th Avenue. It was nothing but rehearsal spaces and bands and stuff. And that was just incredible. That was great. But after that, what they used to have in New York was you could get a building zoned by the city called AIR, Artist in Residence.
Wow.
And it meant if you were an artist and you were contributing to the artistic, you had to, apply and show your work or play your music and you could get what was rent stabilized, super low rents in these buildings. And once, I think it was Mayor Giuliani got in, he did away with all of that. So all these
Wow.
buildings, musicians could no longer afford to live there.
It totally changed the sort of way New York was, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, we 42nd Street was incredible when it was really dodgy. It was great.
Yeah, you have to just see those in those De Niro films now, don't you?
Yeah, and it was nothing but pornos and kung fu movies. Great combo.
So when did you move out to LA then? After that,
I think I moved to LA about 94, 95. I think so. Yeah, and I didn't anticipate moving. There was a number of years that I didn't work with Billy, and then we said, oh, we should, get back together again and work. And I came out he had moved to LA, and I came back out, and, at first I'm in a hotel, then it's taking longer, then I'm in his residential hotel, then I'm renting an apartment, and then I just figured I'd stay, What I loved in LA was people had home studios, and no one had that in New York. And I just went, oh, I see, you can actually do that.
and is it quite easy now to sort of still hang out with, musicians that you really like and go off and just do sessions ad hoc?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole new generation of musicians now that have, obviously with having home studios and stuff, and that's what we've been doing. We worked with Butch Walker, who's a fantastic producer, does Green Day and all these other bands, and then we just worked with a guy named Tommy English, who's more of a pop producer, young guy, but you go to people's homes and the clock's, you're not on the clock, and you kind of free to create. Okay, we didn't.
And what's
get
it like
something
in Las Vegas? There's a new vibe, isn't there, now in Las Vegas?
There is. I mean, I live in an area called Summerlin, which is I'm nowhere near the Strip, but I'm right at the base of the Red Rock Mountains.
Oh, lovely.
So it's really nice here. It's very safe, and there's now an arts district where there's more art galleries and kind of cool pubs, and there's definitely a scene happening here.
Do you fancy sort of doing any of the Burning Man things?
I'd go just to see it. I would go. Yeah.
It'd be great to play it, though, wouldn't it? I think
it
play
would
Burning Man.
It would be. It would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I played there one year, I think 2014, and it was stunning, really stunning. And it's amazing how you could even get lost in a semicircle, but I did. I got completely.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about, maybe it's the age that I am, but there's something about the desert, and I've got a friend who took us up hiking up in the Red Rocks, and there's 8,000-year-old petroglyphs and all these cave paintings and stuff, and you really feel connected to the earth, to the planet, and because there's nothing else out there. And the sky at night, we stayed out there till very late, and up in the sky, it's so clear that you can see satellites moving and things.
That's amazing, huh?
You just, it's I don't know. It just puts
when we
things in
did,
perspective.
we played the DEFCON show at Caesar's Palace, and then spent like a few days hanging out and driving out into the countryside. And
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got this sort of like strange sort of perception of America where I've got this sort of semi-romanticized view of it. And so I was trying to get like these, where is it? And that was sort of imagining these sort of like big open skies and the desert and
Absolutely.
Sort of this sort of romanticized idea of America, which I don't think, you have to really fight to find.
Yeah. I mean, everything is overdeveloped at this point. It's very hard to find nature.
Yeah.
Even in California, I found that you say, I'll take a day, I'll go to the beach. It's packed solid.
And is it sort of like impacting on what you're writing? Are you sort of writing anything that's really in that sort of zone, or?
I don't know about that, but it's I have more space to breathe. So it's, I think it's helped my blood pressure more than anything else. So, and about once a month I go into Los Angeles to do work, and that's,
okay.
I've continued, and I'll kind of gather up my ideas, and then knowing that I'm going to go to LA just to, have a burst of, usually it's 5 days or so of sessions and writing, and it's very compressed, and I like working that way now better. Whereas before, when I was living in LA, I'd constantly be working and, living and working, and I find it's better for me now. And also my studio is, you saw my place. Basically, I had a studio that I lived in.
Yeah, it was Sunset, wasn't it?
And right off Sunset. But now I have a studio that's away from where I live, bedrooms and all that.
Oh, nice.
And I can kind of get away from it if I need to. I'm not.
And have you got a pool?
I do, yeah. My wife looks good in the pool, so
That's good.
she loves it. Yeah.
Before maybe we close up, I wanted to ask you, what was it like with Jackson?
With Micheal Jackson?
Yeah.
Well, it's Quincy Jones, who I think I was more a fan of Quincy's stuff in my household, where my dad had a pretty good jazz record collection, so he had a lot of Quincy's records and stuff. So I was familiar with him outside of Micheal Jackson. So to be in the studio with Quincy, who, just
what was that like?
Fantastic. That was fantastic. He was just like, he was a cool cat, he was a cool guy, And then I hadn't really done that many, sessions outside of Billy Idol, and I was thinking, well, when I got the call for it, there's going to be a whole entourage, and there's going to be the monkey and all this crap. And when I actually got into the studio, there was just Micheal, Quincy, and the engineer. It was exactly the same way I was used to working before, It was great. It was great. The most amazing thing was when I did the video with Micheal Jackson. There's a lot of time in between takes. And he was getting ready to plan his tour. And up until then, he had done these kind of, Jackson 5 R&B tours. And he had, I guess he was friends with Freddie Mercury. He had seen Queen and all these big time rock bands and Van Halen. So he's asking me, do you know Motley Crue? And I was like, no, I'm from New York. I don't know Motley Crue. I know the New York Dolls.
Yeah.
So, but it was great because you could see he was like a sponge. You asked what sound company to use, what lighting company, who was getting ready to do this big time tour. And all he wanted to know was about rock stuff, rock and roll, And
did you do any of the tour?
I only did one gig with him. We did a benefit for the NAACP in New York. And what was amazing was his manager at the time was Frank Zaleo, who was known to be a tough ass, maybe connected guy, Italian, old school manager. And there was no tickets available. And my family wanted to come to this show. And I went, I called the office and I said, there's no tickets available. Why don't you, talk to Frank? All right, I got to talk to Frank. And he was staying at the Plaza Hotel. He says, busy kid, come talk to me. And what he did was he was brilliant. I said, I really love my family to come, my uncles, my mom and dad. Yeah, no problem. And he put a row of seats in for my family.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was just like, done. Before I did the interview, Josie said to talk about how she's so grateful that you introduced us to Mabi and those guys, because that was just an incredible experience to work with them.
Well, funny enough, I was speaking to Simpiwi and Mandela, and they both said to say hi to you guys.
Man, send my regards, because that was on another level. I remember we were rehearsing. We did the rehearsal the first day. And then the second day they walked in, the three guys, and it was like an out of body experience. There was such a heavy vibe when they came in the room, with the horns it was, I don't even know how to describe it to people, that it connects what they were about and what they were doing, connected on a level that was beyond notes, any of that stuff.
Yeah, I always thought I never could quite understand why that type of, because I worked with them, so I had like Michael, Mandela, Simpiwi, Mabi, right. and before that Dizu was involved, and I think it was just too early for people to really connect that sort of African rhythm and electronics and stuff, but I always thought it was just such a fun show.
Yeah, it was great.
And all the improvising, stopping computers, going to rhythm songs.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. But I mean, I've seen footage of some of the presentations you do now with I don't know exactly how you do it, with the lighting. Theater. Oh my God, it's incredible. So,
again, it's I think I choose these like impossible tasks. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
I just can't finance it. Like, we're meant to do a show in Brazil, but I think it's going to get COVIDed out, and I've got like 18 people on the road, and it's a lot,
Yeah.
But I think you just have to go for what you think is different, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we have, really, is what turns us on. I always feel that if we as the musicians get turned on by it, that's how you sell it. You can't bullshit that.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve, for coming.
It's great to connect.
Give us new stories.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to see you, Ben.
Yeah, see you soon.
Thanks again to Steve Stevens for joining us inside the Juno Reactor. Thanks to Maro at Kenji Productions for producing these shows. And if you want to follow these podcasts, do hit subscribe, the like button, or place a review, as this helps our visibility on certain platforms. And hopefully visit us again inside the Juno Reactor.